Now, who really is Fat Joe? And what is his end game? Why is Fat Joe trying so hard to convince Black Americans and Latinos that they are the same people? We know that's not true. All Latinos are not Black, and those Latinos who descend from slavery do not have the same experience as those who descend from chattel slavery in America. Now, while there are, the experiences are similar, they are not the same. Those distinctions are oftentimes overlooked when we talk about these topics, right? So, for example, the use of the N-word is not a term that was used in the Caribbean or in Latin America. So how is it possible that we as Black Americans can give a license to certain people who are not Black American to use that word? Now, many kids born in the 80s and 90s don't fully comprehend the horrific nature of that word. As a result, they feel it's okay to use the word only if it's meant as a term of endearment. And as a result, the one drop rule, many Latinos like Fat Joe use ancestral makeup of Puerto Ricans as a way to carry favor within Black American spaces. As many of you already know, the one drop rule basically says that if you have any ounce of Black blood or traceable amounts of Black blood, you can be deemed Black. Fat Joe understands this, and he uses it to his advantage. So generally, Puerto Ricans descend from three races. They are European, African, and indigenous. People like Fat Joe weaponize their African ancestry in order to gain access to opportunities that would otherwise be served better by members of the Black American community. Now, here's the kicker. What proof do we have that Fat Joe has any African ancestry? And if he does, is it even measurable? Has he ever did a DNA test to prove that he has African ancestry? Apparently, we just gave him a pass because he says he's Black, and we give him permission to use the N-word. Now check this out. He hasn't always seen himself as Black. Fat Joe appeared on Shannon Sharpe's show, and this is what he said about an incident when he was a young kid. He knew at an early age that he wasn't Black. So what changed?
You tell the story I read where you were like bullied as a kid. And one time you were getting bullied and you was getting jumped, and your homeboy who was with you, because he didn't want to get jumped, he jumped in with them and beat you down.
Well, they told him, they said, yo, what you doing with this kid? So what happens is I grew up in a 90% Black neighborhood.
Okay.
Right? So my mother was there 40 years before me. So when I grew up, I never saw racism. I was just little Joey from the block.
Right.
Then I got thrown out of my junior high school, so they put me in my grandmother's neighborhood that was 99.9% Black. But they never seen a Spanish guy like me. So I'm walking up in there, Joey Crack. I'm the same guy.
Right.
They're like, oh, we're not trying to play this shit around. And we never seen one of these, right? Right. And so every day I had to fight 20 guys. And then my best friend, he was Black. His name was Leonard. My mom would cook for him every day, take care of him. And one day they came up to him and they was like, yo, why you be with the Puerto Rican dude? And he's like, that's my friend. And they said, well, if you don't beat him up today with us, we're going to beat your ass like we beat him every day. And he jumped me. And that moment right there changed my whole life. That was the birth of Joey Crack. It was no longer Fat Joey. It was like, all right, I don't care about nobody. Like, I'm ready to go to war with every human being. My heart just turned Black. Like, it was like I'm giving it to everybody. And that's where the legend of Joey Crack began.
It's very difficult to be perceived as Black when you don't present as Black. Now, let's be honest. Fat Joe doesn't look Black.
There are so many Africans and African Americans who do their DNA and will find out they're 25% white. So I also want to even bring in the amount of Africans who do also find out that they have Arab ancestry or white ancestry. And the gag is someone can be 25% white if they do their DNA ancestry and still be dark skinned. But you know what? We can never claim white. You know why? because we don't have privilege to claim white. But it's interesting that when someone is 25% black, they can claim black if they want because they have privilege to be listened to. They have privilege to be heard. And people enjoy seeing white people as the image of blackness. And like, it just really gets me because I feel like if you have to start bringing out pictures of your parents, wrap it up. Wrap it up. If you have to tell me what race you are because I can't see it, wrap it up. I don't want to go into a Blue's Clues mystery case observation to know what race you are when race is phenotypical. When race is phenotypical, race is how you are perceived.
Now, his latest statement on the Shannon Sharpe show was pretty outlandish. He actually said that he descended from slavery. That's right. White Fat Joe said that. But the most disturbing thing that I saw in that interview is that there was no reaction from Shannon Sharpe. None at all. And for the most part, no one in the comment section had a problem with it. So it appears that the majority of black Americans are okay with Fat Joe appropriating black pain and suffering.
See things that happened 20, 30 years ago with Tupac and Biggie, and you see it still happening today. How do we transition and get past that?
That's a bigger issue, man. It's what we call that, the systemic racism. We come from slavery.
What?
That word's not lightly, slavery. And so I love white people and I don't judge nobody and I'm not racist, but you got to understand that we come from slavery. The man was so wicked that when they freed us 100 years ago, they created a system that still fuck us in 2024. Do you think how diabolical you got to be create laws 100-something years ago when you slaves?
For me, part of the delineation process is for black people to define what it means to be black. At this point, there is no definition concerning blackness. The one-drop rule remains the default position. Every other race or group has took it upon themselves to define what it means to be a part of their collective, except black Americans. Just like the open door policy on the U.S.-Mexico border, we as black Americans need to close the border to our lineage. We should do at least what the Seminole Indians did to the freedmen. I didn't like it, but nevertheless, they did it. When they wanted to exclude them from the government payouts to the nation, they required the freedmen to prove that they had at least 25% Native ancestry before they can gain citizenship within the nation. This blood quantum policy is written into federal law, and we too should conduct membership in the very same way.
Go ahead. I just wanted to say real quick, I was looking through, people were coming at you about using the N-word and everything, but like talking to you several times, like a couple of times, like you have always really like, you're a part of the culture, you're one of us, you consider it, like when you refer to us, like when you're talking about Will Smith, you said he's us, what we got. So like you, because
people grew up, I think people, that's an interesting question, but I think people try to rewrite history now.
Yeah.
Right? So now you got young kids who found knowledge itself. They got a right to feel the way they feel because people mistreated black people, enslaved them for 400 years and all that. And they don't know no better. They reading their history or they making their things together. So they don't realize that Fat Joe grew up in the 99.9% black neighborhood, looking like a beetle, right? So it's not, what I'm trying to tell you is that it wasn't even my choice. When I was in kindergarten, before kindergarten, they were saying, what's up, Fat Joe? What's good? This. It was never even my choice.
Yeah.
Now that we're grown and we all these years later, we can think about it, wow, it's a bad word. But where I grew up, it was always used out of love.
Yeah. Yes.
And so, unfortunately, you know, I grew up in this place where we use it like water. It's like, it's like, what do you want me to do? It's like, this is what I've been called my whole life. I don't know no different. Have I been trying to like slow it up and check myself just because I am an OG? You know, it's not because that. It's just I just want to present myself more properly as I get older. You understand what I'm saying? But
You see, for me, Fat Joe's refusal to stop saying the N-word is a sign of disrespect to Black America. Fat Joe also said in an interview not too long ago on The Breakfast Club that he will not stop using the N-word. And no one's going to make him stop because this is how he grew up. Now, although it's true that the word has become more prevalent among urban youth, Black youth are the only group of people where the word can be weaponized against them. This is not true for non-Black men. Fat Joe may never experience being called the N-word by a white police officer, especially if he does not know him. He can simply claim to be Latino or white and escape the trauma that comes when Black men are on the receiving end of that word. It's a mistake to allow the word to remain in our lexicon. Today, we may use that word as a term of endearment, but it does nothing to elevate us from our horrific past. It only serves to remind us of it. I'm truly puzzled as to why Fat Joe would say he's a descendant of slaves. What does he hope to gain from that? Does he want Black people to see him as Black? Does he think by saying that we will forget that phenotypically he doesn't look Black? I don't understand the strategy. The misconception is people assume that every Puerto Rican has African ancestry. The average amount of African DNA is only 15 to 20%, which means that many Puerto Ricans have less than that to none. To see all Puerto Ricans as Black is a big mistake. Well, maybe Fat Joe's looking to win a NAACP award or something. After all, he hosted the BET Hip Hop Awards. I guess sky's the limit. Who's to say what's next for Fat Joe? I'm just saying. Thumb up the video, subscribe and share. Peace.